Hi, my name is Kent Morita. I'm a conversation designer at Google working on Bard. I'm here, however, today to share with you some conversation design insights that were brought up through my creation of Moment in Manzanar, an LLM-empowered conversational experience. And I want to share with you generally the excitement that I'm feeling right now around LLMs and generative AI. I really do think these are among one of the most significant technological leaps that are going to allow really interesting, powerful, and important product experiences to happen. But also, they present interesting design problems. And I'll be sharing with you some of those problems I ran into and how I got around them. If you want to create an LLM experience, my hope is that you'll find this presentation useful. So quickly, I want to cover what is conversation design anyway? So I think it's really helpful to think about this by bringing up the history of computing. So in the early days, and even today, there is the graphical user interface. And this was developed by those at Park Labs. And this was revolutionary at the time. And again, very popular today. It used the desktop metaphor, but it still required people to learn conventions, right? Like right-clicking and left-clicking. One means to get more detail. One means to select. All of these things are invented conventions that humans needed to learn to communicate with machines. They're effective, but they're still conventions. A few decades later, Apple popularized the multi-touch interface. It's a great interface, but still it requires convention learning, like pinching to zoom. Conversation design, to me, represents flipping that script. Our goal as conversation designers is to not require that our users adapt their way of communicating to the conventions of the machine. Our role is to leverage understanding of human conversation to provide a way for humans to communicate with computers naturally and intuitively. We're here to make robots speak human, not the other way around. And with large language models, conversation design is about to change forever. So here's an example of earlier conversation design. You call a hotel front desk robot, and they might say something like this. Hi, this is the hotel bot. To check in, press 1. To check out, press 2. To learn about our hours, press 3, and so on and so forth. And the conversation is pretty much on rails. It's never changing significantly between users, and any user input that is not pressing 1, 2, or 3 is considered invalid. And the robot might say something like, I'm sorry, I don't understand that. Please, if you'd like to check in, press 1. To check out, press 2, etc. With advancements in natural language processing, however, now we can give the user a little more freedom and present a much more natural conversation, which might go something like this. Hi, this is the hotel bot. I can help you with checking in, checking out, or tell you the hours. How could I help? And the user can say, I want help with checking in. And the natural language understanding model might be able to understand that. It might even be able to understand something like, when do you close? And the understanding model would understand that intent, that request, to be something where the user wants to know the hours. And notice, when do you close doesn't share any words with the option that's presented by the robot, which was tell you the hours. But this is the sort of flexibility that humans expect from conversation, and it's the kind of flexibility that increases as NLU models become more and more sophisticated. And this is the exciting part. With LLMs, the ability for systems to respond to anything the user says is night and day, so much more increased. It's exploded. And that flexibility is so appealing. And that's how you get 100 million users using ChatGPT in less than 2 months. This is exciting technology. But with new technology, we need to learn how to harness and use it. And as I was trying to do that through Moment and Manzanar, there were a few design problems that we ran into as a team, and here's how we solved them. So, for some background, Moment in Manzanar is an LLM-powered product, and it is an experience where you as an audience member are tasked with interrogating Ichiro, a fictional representation of a Japanese American incarceree in the Manzanar concentration camp during World War II. The answers that Ichiro give are in part powered by LLMs. So we had this idea, we pitched it to InWorld AI, who provided the LLM engine and the platform to custom tune it. We received an artist grant to make this project happen. The core idea of this project is this. We wanted the audiences, through conversation, to really understand and feel the frustration, the anger, and the tragedy of mass incarceration of people purely due to their race. So we built a prototype. We tuned the LLM using InWorld to react like a Japanese American in 1943, but this alone is not enough. We needed a way to contextualize this conversation to really provide that emotional impact we wanted. So the advantage of an LLM is that anybody could ask it any question and it could answer, but that is actually very problematic sometimes, especially when we're trying to convey such a sensitive message. At the time of development, and LLMs are evolving very quickly every day, but at the time of development, this LLM in particular lacked the ability to stay on topic, especially temporal topics. What I mean is this. You can literally ask Ichiro about Elon Musk, and Ichiro will have an opinion. But he's supposed to be from 1943. Elon didn't exist. But the LLM has no idea because, and I know some people are working on this right now, but temporal bounding wasn't available yet. There's no data set that has labeled every entity in the world with associated time attributes that let you know when that entity has entered the public consciousness. Ideally, the LLM could tap into that database and say, Elon? I don't know who that is. But we can't do that. So, yeah, you could ask Ichiro about iPhones, and he will answer today. But this is a design problem. And we figured, as long as the user doesn't ask, Ichiro doesn't run into that problem. One of the biggest inspirations for this was I had an opportunity to study architecture in Berlin. And there in Berlin, there is a memorial to the Jewish victims of the Holocaust. And this is a very powerful memorial. There are people there that are taking selfies. They're smiling. There's people who are climbing and doing parkour. Most people don't. And the reason why most people don't is because of the context setting. The moment you enter the city of Berlin, the context is being set consistently. It's the people of Berlin too, who have this education that allows them to contextualize these memorials in the right, appropriate way. The architecture leading to the memorial, everything sets that context. And although some people still do inappropriate things at the memorial, most don't. And that's because of the context building. So we realized through user testing that a lot of people were asking Ichiro some inappropriate questions, facetious questions. So we implemented this design decision. When you start Moment in Manzanar, a film plays. that explains to the audience what Japanese incarceration was about. And in particular, it dives into what the loyalty questionnaire was. The loyalty questionnaire was this questionnaire that was given to all Japanese Americans that were incarcerated in the camps. And in particular, question 27 and 28 were very impossible. Question 27 basically asked, are you willing to serve in the armed forces of the United States? And 28 asked, would you forswear allegiance to the Japanese emperor? And many said no to question 27 out of principle. Why would you risk your life for a country that literally took away your home? And many answered no to question 28 because they were born and raised in the United States. They had no allegiance to the emperor to forswear. So what do you mean would I agree to forswear? If I say yes, does that imply that I am aligned right now? Like, it's a really badly worded question. Ichiro will be answering no and no. But you don't know this, but your job is to ask those questions. So this film sets up two things. First, it gives you a clear directive of what you are there to do, which is really important because a lot of our users in playtesting would meet Ichiro and have no idea what to ask. So we really prime you to the audience to understand this is what you're here to do. But also, the film sets the mood. And what we found through this was a significant decrease in facetious questions, less questions about Elon Musk, Facebook, when we set the tone with the film leading up to the conversational experience. But they still crept in. Around after 3 conversational turns, users start to experiment. So we thought, okay, what if we could cut them off after 3 conversational turns to get them back on track? Kind of an error handling. But it needs to be natural and motivated. So we re-engineered Ichiro's model to be angry the entire time. Like from the moment you meet Ichiro. And what this does is it allows Ichiro to naturally motivate. When you ask more than 2 or 3 questions, it will provide a canned response angrily saying, can you stop wasting my time? And then redirect the user back onto the happy path. So this worked out great. We even heard feedback from users. After 2 or 3 conversational turns, they will start experimenting, asking some, exploratory questions, and Ichiro would yell at them. And they felt really guilty, which is great. But that sounds weird to say, but yes, we felt great that the users felt guilty in the right way. So what we're trying to get at is we needed to create this meta system that was monitoring some basic information about the state of the conversations happening in the LLMs. LLMs doesn't mean that you don't need to create those systems. We still need those systems. And this meta system developed by the engineer on our team keeps track of a lot of things, including turn count of the conversation happening. And yeah, so this is something I believe all LLM products will ultimately need. And the design and implementation of this is going to be one of the places where conversation designers will be contributing a lot in. Another thing that LLMs at the time didn't really do was really understand what the user is saying or understand what itself is saying. So I said that after 2 or 3 questions, Ichiro gets angry, right? He shouldn't get angry if we are on track. But the LLM doesn't know whether you are on track or not because it doesn't really understand what the user is saying. So when the users asked to ask question 27 and 28 of the loyalty questionnaire, we needed to also be able to track when those questions were asked and whether those questions were asked. So we created this suggestion chip UI, big buttons that say ask question 27, ask question 28. And crucially, we never actually put the questions on a screen as prominently as those buttons. So the users are very incentivized to press those buttons. If actually the user by heart knows questions 27 and 28 and decides to ask it in their way, the system gets a little weird. It won't break completely, but it would do some weird things. So those buttons, we really wanted them to press those, and pressing those buttons are tracking the conversational state of whether 27 and 28 were asked. We also created this clipboard UI so that the user can fill out the questionnaire as they're getting answers to the questions. And by the way, if the user fills out the questionnaire in a way that Ichiro wouldn't answer, so for example, it could just fill in yes instead of no, Ichiro will take the clipboard away from you and say, "What do you mean? I'm never going to do that. No." And that's another canned response. So it's a mix of canned responses and LLMs working together to create this very interactive experience. So I think this state handling, this is something that's already been solved in the non-LLM conversation design space. So it's a matter of implementing prior work, but it still needs to be done. So results. After we implemented these strategies, the facetious question rate, if you will, went from around 20% of all conversations down to 10. So 90% of our users didn't see Ichiro answer inappropriate questions, and we consider that a huge win. And again, we didn't aim for perfection. We figured there will always be people who do parkour at the most inappropriate places, but those people are not our audience. They aren't our target. They're not really there to receive the message we want to deliver. And when they're ready to get that message, we'll be ready to provide that conversation. Now, after you ask all the questions and you fill out the form, there's another sequence, but I'll let you discover that on your own. Moment in Manzanar is something you can check out today at www.momentinmanzanar.com. And if you listen this far, I do have a favor to ask. This project became a finalist in the 3rd Annual Anthem Awards, which is the Webby. It's organized by the same people who organized the Webby Awards, and it's there to honor and commemorate works that push social awareness causes, and it's pretty surreal. Our name is on the same press release as Taylor Swift and Elton John. And we're just a 5-person team that met up on Discord after I received the artist grant. So anyway, this year, for the first time, they're having what they call a Community Choice Award. And if you could please go to www.tinyurl.com/vote-moment. Please look up Moment in Manzanar, and if you could click that celebrate button, it will mean the world to us. It'll help us immensely, and hopefully getting the Community Voice Award. That's www.tinyurl.com/vote-moment. Look up Moment in Manzanar, and if you could click celebrate, that'll be amazing. Voting, I believe, ends December 21st. It will really mean a lot to us. Thank you so much for your time. I hope I shed some light into how implementing LLMs in new experiences feel like. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you again.